All right. Welcome to the modular inventory tutorial part 6, the usable items. So the basic one, I have a small healing potion, a big healing potion, and you can equip them on your hotbar. You can use them by right-clicking or by simply clicking the hotbar key. So for this one is 1, and I used it. And yet the quantity goes down. There's a little cooldown on it. And all of this is configurable if the item is not in your inventory. So if I put it on the ground, you can't use it. So if I press 1, it doesn't work, or right click on it. So I pick it up and then I can use it. Right click, the quantity goes down, and when I don't have any more, the item is deleted, and all the item in the hotbar, if I want, I can put all the 5 hotbar slot with the same potion, and any key I press will use it, and there, I don't have any more. And then I have some rarity upgrade kit. This one is a magic one. This one will upgrade an item to magic or rare. So let's say I take this magic orb and I put it in my inventory, and now I can use one of those. This magic orb is magic. And then if I use another one, now it's rare. It's now a mere device. And if I try another one, I can't, because it's already at rare and I can't upgrade it more. Maybe I could have a unique upgrade kit to transform it into a unique item, and I can put it in my hotbar also. Now I can't use it because the condition is not met. I need to have an item that is normal or magic in my inventory. So if I pick up this shirt, now it's not in my inventory, it's in my equipment, but you could change that if you want to be able to apply it to this. Now I can use it if I have the right item. So use it, and my t-shirt is now magic. And you can also put the usable component on anything. So this t-shirt has the usable property, and it can heal 1 life point. And if I right click, yeah, it goes into cooldown. So if I put it in my hotbar, I can go around, fight monster, and when I need healing, I can press 1, and yeah, it goes in cooldown. And you can also add the usable property on unique item. The property will be there only if the item is unique. All right, so let's start working on that. So I will start where we left off in part 5. I'm going to go in my item folder, and I'm going to create a new script. Usable, item usable, GD. Template, I'm going to do no comments, and create. Let's open it. Item usable. As always, I'm going to set a class name. Item usable. So the first thing is I'm going to set some signals, because I already know that we want cooldown, and we want to know when the condition for the usable item has changed, so if we can use it or not. So the first signal is going to be the start cooldown. I'm going to add the parenthesis after. This is not needed. You can leave it just like this without the arguments of the signal, but I like to have it there, so when I come back, I can see quickly what this signal will send. So this one, start cooldown, I will send the item usable component, so itself, item usable. Those are not the variables, they're simply placeholder, so you can put anything here. Signal, so the next signal will be cooldown, tick, and this one will be sending the remaining cooldown. I think it's also shown in the editor if you try to connect to this signal in the editor, so that's another use for the parenthesis on the signals. And the last signal will be signal can use changed. So this one will tell us if we can use the item. So can we use it? So for example, if it is the upgrade kit, if I don't have anything in my inventory other than the upgrade kit, then I can't use it. And as soon as I pick up an item that is valid, then this will be sent with the value if I can use it. So the first variable is going to be unlimited use. This is mostly for the item that are usable but don't have any quantity, like the armor or the unique items. So this one by default is false. Then there's the cooldown. Cooldown. This one is the time for the item to cool down after use. By default, we'll put it at 0. Now we need another variable. It's the cooldown remaining. So we can display the time on the item. By default, it's going to be 0. Then we need to know if the item is in cooldown. So is in cooldown. And by default, it's not in cooldown. Then we'll need a variable to know if we can use the item. So variable can use. This one is based on the condition of each usable item that you'll add to your game. Yeah, for example, the healing potion I have, your life point must be less than the max life point. So this one by default will be false. And later we'll come back here and we'll set up the setter function, set get, and we'll do the set can use. But I'll comment it now so it doesn't send me an error. Var. The next one is, for example, in my tutorial right here, the healing potion. I don't have a system that deals with the health point, so the healing potion would always be unusable. And you might want to have some items that are always usable, and for that, can always use. And it's gonna be false by default, but in my case, in my little example, the healing potion are true for the can always use. If you don't mind your player drinking potion even if they're full life, then you can always have that true. And the two last variable are the text to display. So var on use text. This is the text that says what the item is going to do when you use it. And the other one is the condition. And the condition will simply be the text that tells you what you need in order to be able to use the item. There's one last variable. It's the item itself. Item. We will have to do some calls to the parent item. It will never know that it is usable itself. It's the component that will deal with all of that. So, yeah, now we'll start adding the functions. So the first one will be init, initialize, and in here we'll get the data, because the data for each usable item, that will come from the JSON files, and we need the parent item. In here, we'll set the item to the parent item. We'll call a function, set data, and we'll do it in a function because the inherited script from the usable item will also have their own data. They'll call their own function, and we'll send data to it. I'll create the function set data, and it will pass for now, and it will receive the data. Okay, so here I will need to connect to a signal on the item because I want to know when the item is placed in the player's inventory. So we'll have to add a signal on the item for that and connect to it here. I can already write the line and we'll add the signal right after. So item.connect, and then the signal. I don't really like to have long name, but I didn't know how to call this one. So this one is item placed in player inventory. It's a bit long. This will be set on self, and it will call on item placed in player inventory. All right, so we'll create this function at the end. Function, place that, and this function will send a boolean saying if it is on the player or not. So we'll call that value. We'll pass for now. So that's it for the initialize function. Let's go to the next one. I'll set the process function. When the item is in cooldown, we'll have to count the time remaining. So process, and the delta here will be what we'll use to count down the time. If the item is in cooldown, then we'll remove the delta from the remaining cooldown. Cooldown remaining minus equal delta. And then here we'll emit the signal to tell anyone that is listening about the new cooldown. So emit signal, cooldown tick, and we'll send the cooldown remaining. And then the last thing here is we need to check if it's done. So if cooldown remaining is less or equal to 0, this is done. Is in cooldown is false. So now let's do this set data. It's a bit like the item. It's going to be optional. So if data.has unlimited use, we'll set it. Unlimited use is equal to data.unlimited use. And let's duplicate that. And the other one is the cooldown is equal to data.cooldown. If I don't set the cooldown, then it's going to be instant, or I could set the default cooldown here. So let's say I put 1. So anything that I don't specify a cooldown will be 1 second. All right, let's do the setter. Here, set can use. I'll remove the comment here. And now it tells me that it doesn't exist. So let's copy this. Let's go down and I'll put it here. So function set can use. This will take in a value. This is going to be a boolean. I'll set can use is equal to value. And I'll emit the signal that the can use has changed. So emit signal, can use changed, and I'll send get can use. I'll have another function for that because there's other condition I want to check. So let's create it, copy that, and put it there. Function get can use, return if you can use it, or you can always use it. And now the other thing is, we'd like to know if the item is on the player. So here, we'll do and. We'll need to check if the item has an inventory slot, if item.item slot. And yeah, this one will have to add this to the item, because right now the item doesn't know about his parent slot. And the item, then we'll check the item slot, and is on player. So yeah, all of this is what we need to know if we can use the item. The next one, let's make some plays. Function, so use. And in here, we'll check if we can use it, so can use, and it's not in cooldown. Oh, well, this thing is in cooldown. We can simply put it in the get can use. So let's put it at the end here, and not is in cooldown. So yeah, it's called here in the get can use. Then we'll call the function execute. This will do what the item is supposed to do. So for the healing potion, they will do their healing stuff. Let's do the function execute and pass for now. I'll never write code here in the base item usable. Later I'll extend item usable. The item healing will have code in the execute. So here we'll need to check if the item is not unlimited, then we'll count down. So the item dot quantity is going to be minus equal 1. We'll remove 1. And after that, if we'll set the item is in cooldown, is true. We'll set the cooldown remaining to the cooldown. We'll add to the item the image for the cooldown, the little square pie, that disappear in circle, with the timer too. So we'll have to create that item dot add child, and this will be. And for this, I'll create a function, because if you put an item in the hotbar, this hotbar slot will need the same cooldown to display the same one everywhere. So here we'll do get cooldown instance. Let's create this function, create it underneath function. For now, we'll pass and we'll come back to it. And after that, we'll simply emit signal, start cooldown, and we'll send self, the item usable. So if we have an item in the hotbar, it will be listening to start cooldown. It will pick up this item usable, and it will call the get cooldown instance when it receives this signal to get an instance of the cooldown. I hope it's not too confusing. So let's do the get cooldown instance. I'm going to go and create the item cooldown node. So I'll go in my inventory, sprites, and I'll import my cooldown background here. Let's go on the inventory slot, tscn. Let's zoom in, scene. So I'll put a sprite in there. Let's get the sword here. Let's add child. This is simply to see what I'm gonna create for the cooldown. It's gonna be a texture rect. Then let's put the sword in there. Here I'll add a child node. This one will be a progress texture. Texture progress. Then let's make it full rect. Let's go in textures, cooldown. That's one. Let's put it in progress. And then we can move it. That should be good. Let's go in the data here, the range. Let's change the value for something else. Let's do 65 just to see the progress. We can come back up at the top with the fill mode. So we can change all of this. There's a lot of different way that this progress can fill up. And what we look for is the clockwise. And if we go back down to the value, we can change it and we see that how it moves. All right, and then we'll add some text on top of that. So let's do add a child node. We'll do a label. Let's do some text. Let's do 42. Okay, let's get the font for that. I think I had some font 8. Let's go down in the theme override fonts. Let's put my font 8. All right, that should be okay. Then color, font color, black. Let's do layout, full rect. At the top, I'll set the text to center on both. And then you could probably set a little background so it doesn't disappear in the dark of the cooldown, or do some outline white. Can I do that? Let's see what we get with that. And then I could call this node cooldown. So let's create a folder in items, create a new folder, call it usable. And inside here, I'll save my cooldown nodes. So here, save branch as seen, items, usable, and save that. So here I'll add a script to it. Yes, it's going to be in the usable items. Yes, create that. All right, let's do a little script for this. It shouldn't be too complicated. Here I'll get the reference to my label, export node path onReady var lbl is equal to get node lbl as label. If you want to have more details on this export variable, you can go back in the previous tutorial. So then I can click on my cooldown. Let's go in the scene. So I set it here on the cooldown itself. Oh, I did not. Oh, yeah, that's something. So I added the script on the cooldown in the inventory slot, not in here. So let's pick the cooldown.gd, put it here, and let's go back in the inventory slot. Since we're happy with the result, let's delete everything. Delete the item, well, the texture rect, and leave the inventory slot where it was. Let's close it. Let's go back in the cooldown. In here, I can click my cooldown and assign my label. So click assign label. Well, since this is a simple scene, you could simply use the $sign label or get node. Let's do the first function. I'm going to have the set data and I'll get the usable item. And what I'll do here is simply connect to the cooldown tick. So usable dot connect the cooldown tick on self, and then I'll connect that to a function called on cooldown tick. So copy that, put it there. Now the script is on a texture progress. So here we'll have access to the max value, and the max value will be equal to usable.cooldown. So if you pick your item from your inventory that is already in cooldown and put it in the hotbar, the max value will always be set to the max cooldown, and then we'll listen to the signal. And if the remaining is half of what it is right now, it will always be valid. Yeah, the remaining time will be always synced with the usable item. So function on cooldown tick, let's get the remaining time remaining, and in here the value of the progress bar will be equal to remaining, the label dot text. So this is going to be the little number that goes down, and for this I like to set it with decimal number. So to do it, I use the percentage format sign, and for floating number, I can do 0. So I want to have a 0 before the dot, and then I want 2 values after, and then you put a F, or you could have 1 if you want to, and then you do the percentage sign again and the value that you want to put in the string. So remaining, and then at the end here, if remaining is lower or equal to 0, so if there's no time left, then the cooldown can go away. So Q3, remove yourself from the tree and save that. That's it for the cooldown visual. Let's go in the resource manager, and we'll add this. So my TSCN here, my TSCN list, I'll have the cooldown, and I'll preload the cooldown. So let's go get the cooldown TSCN, put it there, save that. And I'm also going to add a function here just so it's easier to get my instance. I'm going to have a function, get instance, and then I'll get the ID of what I want. And here I'll return TSCN with the ID dot instance. So this will return one instance in my scene list. So let's save that and let's go back to the usable item right here. Get cooldown instance. That's where we were. So we'll get the cooldown var cooldown node. Cooldown node is going to be equal to resource manager dot get instance, and here we'll give it the cooldown. Then we'll call the cooldown node dot set data, and we'll give it self. We'll give it the usable item so it can get the value and connect the signals, and at the end return cooldown node. All right, we're almost done with the basic item usable. We'll have to set this one on item placed in inventory. This one will simply emit a signal, can use changed, and here we'll do get can use. All right, and then the last few functions are for the item info, to display the info when you mouse over an item. So the first one will be for the other nodes that will inherit from the item usable. So here we'll do get use text and pass. This is mainly for example, the healing potion. Since it has a amount of health points that you get, then the text will not be the same, but the upgrade kit will always be the same. So this one won't have to modify it. Different item can have different use case. All right, and the last function here, let's make some place. It's the set info. So function set info, and this one will get the item info. This one is pretty much the same as the other set info function that we did for the other component. So we'll add a splitter item info dot add splitter. I use for line to show what the item is going to do when you use it and the condition to use it. But you could put that on 2 lines, or you could put that differently if you want to. Item info dot add line, and here we'll add in a new item info line. And this we need to do dot new, and the value we'll send is the text. So here on use, then we need to send the color game enums dot rarity, and we'll set this to normal. So this line will always be the normal color. Let's duplicate. Now this text will be get use text, and the color, let's set the color to the rarity of the item. So item dot rarity. All right, and then we can copy those 2 lines. Select, you can select them, and Control D to duplicate. And we'll do condition. It's going to be normal, and then here it's going to be the variable condition with the item rarity. All right, so we're done. Let's save that. All right, so now that we're done, there's a few things that we need to add elsewhere. So for example, here I have the item place in player inventory. I need to add in the item. And there's also the item slot that I need to add in the item. Let's go in the item and add those. I'm going to copy this, and let's go in item. So item, there's a few things I'm going to modify here. But first, let's do the signal. Item place in player inventory. And the value that we'll send here, item, is on the player. Then we also need the item slot. So what we'll do here, we'll add the variable slot, and we'll also add a setter function. So set slot. Let's get it, and let's put it at the bottom. Go down. So function set slot, and we'll get the value. The value will be the item slot. Let's make some place. So here we need to set the slot. Oh well, this needs to be item slot. Item slot. Change the name. Item slot. All right. So this is equal to the value, and then we can emit the signal. Emit signal. Item placed in player inventory, and we'll send the variable. We could simply do item slot here and is on player, but maybe the item is in the player hands and it doesn't have a item slot. So in that case, we'll check if it is. So we'll send the item slot dot is on player if there's an item slot, else we'll send false. Now, since we're in the item script, let's modify a few things, because now we can remove quantity of an item. And here we'll add a signal, quantity changed. So quantity changed, and we'll send the quantity. Because when we'll add the item in the hotbar, it's not going to be the item itself. It's only going to be a copy of the item. So we need to listen to everything on the item. And when you change the quantity, we need to update the item in the hotbar. And the other one is signal depleted. So if the item doesn't have any quantity, if the quantity is 0, it's going to be depleted. So it's going to be deleted, and it should be deleted everywhere else. So well, mainly in the hotbar. So let's go in set quantity function. We'll change a bit here. When we change the quantity here, we can emit the signal. Emit signal, quantity changed, this one, and then we send the quantity. All right. Then if we have a label quantity, then we'll set it. And I think I'm going to change this here. Since the label quantity, I'm going to use it also on the hotbar. I'm going to change how I deal with this quantity. So the label quantity, I'll change it so it is its own node, its own scene, and I'll have the quantity on it. So it will deal with setting the stuff. So here I'll just say quantity is equal to quantity, and later we'll go and make this one. For now, let's remove that. And here at the end, if the quantity is lower or equal to 0, but yeah, normally it shouldn't go below 0, but just in case, then we'll emit the signal, depleted, there's nothing left, and then destroy. So destroy this item. Let's create this function, destroy. Let's go at the bottom here, function, destroy. And to destroy the item, what we'll do is we check if it has, here when we destroy the item, if item slot, you need to check if the item has one item slot, dot remove item. We'll ask it to remove it. Now let's get the new item quantity label. Yeah, in the ready function, that's where we set the label. What we do is we create a label, we set the font, and we set the color. Now, instead of doing that, we'll make a scene of this. So let's go in here, create a new scene. Let's do a user interface. Let's add a child node. Let's get a texture rect. So let's get something like a sword, put it in texture, put it the right size. Then let's add a label. Let's make this full rect. To test, let's do 4. Let's go in the theme override font, put the same 8, same as the cooldown. And then we can change the color too. So colors, and that should be good. Okay, that's what we had in the script. Now we can save this label. We can call it quantity. Let's save branch as scene. We'll put it with the cooldown. Then this is done. We can close this scene and don't save. Now let's go in the quantity. In the quantity scene, let's simply add a script to it. No comments, quantity, everything is good, create. And this will be pretty simple. We'll have a variable, quantity. That's what we're gonna set. We'll have a set get function, set quantity. So when we set this value, it will set itself the text in the label, and it will hide itself if the value is simply 1, set quantity. It will receive a value, and with it, we'll set the text of this label to be equal to the string of the value, and then this label will be visible only if the value is greater than 1. So it's pretty much the same that we have in the item. So here we'll go and put the new label in the resource manager. So here, tscn, let's copy this, control D, quantity. So this should be quantity. Oh, did I put it in the usable? Well, yeah, let's move the quantity out of here. It's going to be on the item. So 1 up, quantity. It's going to go in the item folder. Go back in the script, resource manager. So it's going to be items, quantity, tscn. Perfect. Let's save this. Let's go. We can close it. Close the quantity. So item here we'll do resource manager get instance, and we'll pass in the value quantity. So this is my quantity scene. So I can remove that and add child. And then here, instead of set quantity, I can simply set the quantity of the label. I don't have to send everything. Save that. All right, so I think now we can start adding the new data in the JSON file. So I'll go in my data folder. I'll right click and open in file manager. I can open my item JSON. All right, so in my item file, I can add my usable item. So I'll add a small and big healing potion. And I'll also add a magic upgrade kit. And I'll add probably a usable property on some other item. So maybe the t-shirt and a unique item. So just before my equipment, let's add a small healing potion. So this is a dictionary, and the value in there, the name, the stack size. You can also have the level. So if you want to loot those potion, maybe the small one is level 1 and the big one could be higher level. So you drop it later in the game. So here, the name, small healing potion, stack size, I'll leave it to 10. And now let's add the usable, and this will be a dictionary. And in there, I'll have the type, and this one I'll say it's healing. So I'll have the data, and this will be a dictionary too. Since we know that the type here is healing, it will use a healing value. It could be health point amount or something like that. But let's say that the small healing potion will heal for 10, and I could leave the cooldown. If the cooldown of the potion is 1, I could leave it just like that. So it will use the default one that we set earlier. So I can copy this and make a big healing potion. Big. You could change the stack size for those. The level could be 10. The type is still healing. The healing amount, let's do 50. And this one, we can increase the cooldown. Cooldown will be 3 seconds. All right. Then we can add the upgrade kit. So I'll just paste that again. This will be rarity upgrade. This is simply the ID of the item. So here I'll do rarity upgrade kit. Then the stack size, let's say that this one will not stack, so I can remove the stack size. The level, well, this could be rare, so let's increase the level to 50. Might be hard to get. And we can give it a rarity. So let's copy the rarity of the brick, the crystal. So rarity here, copy this. Level 50, rarity, it's rare. Then the usable, the type will be upgrade. The data, this one is not gonna have anything here. You could set a cooldown, but since it doesn't stack, when you use it, it's gonna go away. Data is gonna be empty here. Let's make the helmet usable. After the base stat, let's do a comma and add simply this little tag, usable, and there. The helmet right now would upgrade other equipment if you leave it there. So let's do healing instead. Healing, and the data will be the same as the potion. And since this one is a helmet, we don't want to lose it when we use it. So we'll do unlimited use. It's true. But maybe you have some equipment that is like food. You can equip it and you can eat it or something like that. Maybe it could be something interesting. So let's say that it's not gonna heal too much. So let's do 5 and the cooldown is 5. And if we want to have the usable in a unique item, then we'll have to copy this and let's put it on the magic orb since we already have some unique data here, and we'll put it here after the stats. All right, let's save the data and let's go back to the game. So let's create the healing item. First, I'm gonna import some new sprites. So I'm gonna go in my item sprites folder and I'm gonna import my image. So big red potion, rarity upgrade, and the small red potion. Let's go in my usable folder and I'm gonna create a new script, item healing. So open that. Here I'll do a class name, item healing. This is gonna have a healing amount, so var healing amount, and then we'll have a initialize function in it, and this will get the data. It's basically like the parent usable item and parent item. It's exactly like the parent item because after that we need to call the parent item, and we can do that by adding a dot data, and we send the same thing, parent item. We'll get the variable here that we can use in our initialize function here. Then with the dot, we can call the parent and send the same value. But here we need to extend item usable, and now it's okay. So initialize. First, I don't have this signal, but normally I would call the signal manager dot connect to something like player life changed. I would connect that on self, on a function, on player life changed. All right. But then I don't have life in this little demo. In your game, you could add a signal in the signal manager. So player life change. If I go in my signal manager, I could add a section for the player and signal player life change. And probably this would send the current life and max life. And with that, you could figure out if you need healing, save it, let's go back, item healing. We'll set the unused text. So unused text is going to be equal to heal percentage sign s, and that's going to be a placeholder for now, live point. And then the condition is need healing. And then for now, since I don't have the player live, I'll do the can always use to true. But if you are using the signal, you shouldn't need this function, set data. So here we'll receive the data from the file. And for the healing item, it's going to be the healing amount is going to be equal to data.healing. And then we'll call the parent set data, send the data to it. Then we'll override the function get use text, and this one will simply return unused text percentage sign. Since we have a percentage sign in our unused text string, you can use it here with the healing amount, and it will place our healing amount in the string here. Pretty cool. If you're using the signal here, you can have a function on player life change. You'll receive the life and max life, and this would simply set the can use equal life is lower than max life. There, that's pretty much it. Then when your player would lose life, this would be called, or if you heal yourself and the life is the same as the max life, it would disable it. And then the last one is the execute function. this one, I would send the signal manager, emit signal, and I would create a signal, heal player, and we'll send the amount. So healing amount. And for now, I'll just print healing the player for percentage S live point. I'll do the percentage healing amount. So yeah, just for now, I'll print it in the output. And let's save this. Yeah, if we start the game right now, we might have the healing potion, but it's not going to be usable. So if we go in our item script, we have all of those if we have everything, and that's where we add the components. So we'll add a new line here. If data has usable, so if the item is usable, then here we'll do two things. So I'll have a new line, the components usable will be equal to item manager. I'll create a new function for get usable, and then I'll send the data.usable and self. So it will send the item to the item manager, and this will return us the usable item. And then this one will be added. So add child components.usable, because this one needs to be in the tree, in the scene tree here, to be able to work. Mostly for the cooldown, because it needs to access the tree for that. And the process, the ready function is called when you're in the tree. The process is called in the tree. So that's why. So let's go in item manager. Let's go at the bottom and I'll add a new function, get usable. The self will be usable item. The data will be simply data. And for now, I'll pass to get my usable. I'll simply have a array at the top, a dictionary with all the different usable items. So var usable dictionary. I'll have the healing, which is going to be preload, and I'll get my healing potion here, item healing, and that's it. Later we'll come back here to add the upgrade. Let's go back down here, return usable, and then we'll pass in the value, which usable type, so data dot type. Then this usable will do dot new, and this will call the initialize function, data dot data. This might be a bit confusing, so let's change this data here for data usable. So this is the usable tag in the JSON file, and in the usable dictionary we have the data. After that we'll send the item. Oh yeah, this is not the usable, this is the item. Let's go in the dungeon. So dungeon tscn. Let's click on this chest here. I'll add a few more places, and in the array here, let's add more. So let's go to 10, and let's add some potion. Small healing potion, and let's do some big healing potion. Big healing potion. Let's do the rest. And now let's go in the resource manager, and I need to add my sprites here. So I have my small, my big healing potion, and my rarity upgrade kit. So now let's try to go in the game. All right, we're in. Let's go in the chest, and we have our small healing potion, big healing potion. It says that it's a material. We could add new item type, so it's not this. It could be consumable and stuff like this. On use, heal 50 life points. Condition, needs healing. All right, so that works. But now if I right click, I can't drink the potion, and the hotbar will take the whole item. The way I want to deal with this is you can click to put a copy of the item, and then you need to put it in your inventory to be able to use it. Let's deal with the using first. We'll go in the inventory manager, and then we'll go in the on GUI input slot, and it's here. When we click with the mouse, we check if the input is the mouse button, if it has been pressed, and if the button is the button left. So we'll remove this little part and we'll put it underneath here. If the button is left, then do all of this. Else, if the button is right and the slot itself has an item in it, and also the item in it, the components on the item has the usable component. All right, so if all of this is okay, I can get this copy, paste it there, slot.item.component.usable, and then .use. All right, so if you right click a slot and it has an item and it is usable, then it's going to be used. All right, now we need to go in the inventory slot itself to add the variable is on player. So here var is on player, and we'll need to set this to know if we are on the player. So if we go here, inventory player GD on ready, we can get this variable here with all the inventories for I in inventories for S in I dot slots, and we'll do S dot is on player is true. So all of those slots will be on the player. Save that. So let's go back on the inventory slot. Now if we come back here in the inventory slot, we need to set the item slot, because on the item we did add the item slot. Now we need to set this. And we're going to set it here because it's the inventory slot that deals with placing the item inside of itself. So the first is going to be here, item slot is equal to self. All right. And then here in the set item, when we put a new item, we remove the old one. So the old one will remove its slots. So item slot is equal to null. After that, it's the new one. So that one is going to be the same as this. So I can copy this line and put it there. We can copy this, but it needs to be new item. So the new item slot will be self. I'm going to split this function in smaller functions, just so it's easier to know what's happening in all of this. All of this block of code here, I'll remove it, and I'll create a function has new item, and I'll pass in the new item, and then I'll go underneath and create the function, and then I'll paste all of this and remove some indentation. Now in this function, I return here null, or here I return the item. So here I'll return has new item. Let's make some place here. And now there's this block here. This is when you have the new item and the old item. Cut that. And here we'll return has both item. We'll send in the new item and create the function and paste that in. Remove one indentation. So now that these functions are split, it's a bit easier when you come back to look at the code. You have less to check. If you don't have a new item, that means that you don't have anything in your hand. Then you pick up the item that is in the slot. I should probably put comments in my code to explain exactly that. All right, so then let's continue. So I'm going to create some function just to clean a bit the code for can stack. And then here I'll send the new item. And this will be a Boolean. And I will simply pick out this line here. So if the new item ID and if the quantity, so cut that. If can stack new item. All right. And then I'll put this here and return that. So with this, when you read your code, it's a bit easier to understand. If you can stack the new item, then you go in. So now I'll do something for this one, remove child. This is for later, because when we'll do the hotbar slot, we won't remove the item since the item will not be child of the hotbar slot. It's only going to be a copy. Cut this one, and I'll create a function remove item child. I'll come down here, function remove item child, and I'll paste that here. Item container remove child item. And the last function is the remove item. Since at some place we remove items, function remove item. And in there, we'll simply do put item and we'll send null. So basically we'll put nothing in the item slot. All right, so let's test this. So if we start the game, so if we go in the chest and pick up one of those potions, yeah, they need to be in our inventory to be used. So let's put it there and right click. So yeah, it kind of works. We have a problem with the progress bar. Oh, I think it's the step. So yeah, I forgot to set the step on the progress bar. So this one has 3 seconds, and you see that it does only 3 pi. Yeah, so we'll change that. So here we can search for cooldown. I will go in the TSCN. We'll select the progress, and then we'll go down, and here we have step. So let's do 0.01. That should be enough. And then if we start that again, this should be smoother. Yeah, so that's pretty good. We try this one, and yeah, the last one doesn't have any cooldown. And yeah, so now let's do the hotbar slots. So instead of putting the whole item in there, we'll simply put a copy, and then we'll be able to put it in our inventory. And this item will know by looking at it if we can use it, and we'll connect the signal to the item itself. So when it is usable, it changed right away in the hotbar, so we know we can use them. All right, let's do that. So here, let's search for hotbar. We'll go in the hotbar slot GD. Oh yeah, and my hotbar is not in the correct folder, but I'm gonna move it in the inventory. So I'm gonna pick it up and move it there. Now it's with the scene. And in the hotbar TSCN, I need to add the item texture. So here in the item container, I'm gonna add a child node. I'm gonna do a texture rect. So I have it there, and this will be called item texture. So instead of putting the item in here, we'll simply pick its texture and put it there. So now if I go in the code, I'm going to duplicate this line, create the item texture, get node item texture as texture rect. Now we'll add a few variable. So first, the key is still there, and this is a string. We'll have the cooldown node var cooldown node. This is a control. Then we have another variable, quantity, so label quantity, which is a label. And then when we're ready, we'll set the key. Then we'll set the label quantity. So label quantity is going to be equal to the resource manager dot get instance. And here we'll get the scene that we made earlier. So quantity. And after that, we'll add it. So add child label quantity. So then we have the input. Right now, we only print use hotbar slot, and we'll add the item. So this inherits from the inventory slot. It has the item variable. Then we'll do components dot usable dot use. But if we want to use the item, we need to make sure it is usable. So and the component that has usable. So now we'll get into the new functions. So the first one will be the function set item, get the new item. Yeah, this one will override it completely. To start, we'll check if we already have an item. We'll pass for now. I'll come back to it. I'll do the new item first. Let's make some place here. And then we'll check if we have a new item coming in. Then we'll do a few things. First, we'll set our item texture. Item texture is going to be equal to the new item dot texture. Then the new item will connect the signal to it. So connect new item dot connect. The signal quantity changed on self, and I'll do on quantity change. So we can change the quantity label when the main item changes its quantity. So it's going to be displayed in the hotbar. Then we'll connect another signal, and this one is going to be depleted when you don't have any more. Here you could have the undepleted function, but I'll do simply remove item. So we'll remove the item directly when it receives the depleted signal. And after that, the label quantity is going to be updated. That quantity is going to be equal to new item dot quantity. Then we need to check if the item is usable. Then here, just so the line are not too long, I'm just going to get the usable variable, and I'll get the usable component from here. So the usable is the item component usable. And then we'll connect more signal. So I can copy one of those lines, put it here, and this is going to be usable. Connect start cooldown, and we'll connect it on self, and this is going to be on start cooldown. And then this one will be the signal can use changed. So when the status of the item changed, then we'll know it, and we'll display it correctly on the hotbar there. Then we'll have another function that is going to be when the item is enabled. So we'll do set enabled color, and we'll set it to false, because most of the time the item will be in your hand when you place it down in the hotbar. So it's not going to be in your inventory, so it's not going to be usable. But this, you could change the condition for that. And if you want to modify anything in there and you're not sure how to do it, well, you can come on my Discord and ask me. I'll be happy to help you. Let's create the function now. Function, so we don't forget it. On quantity changed, pass, we'll place the on cooldown start, and then function on can use changed, pass, and the last one, set enabled, function set enabled, if it is enabled or not, and we'll come back. We need to check when we're placing an item in the hotbar if it's not already in cooldowns. So if usable dot is in cooldown. If it is, then we'll set cooldown with the usable itself. That's a new function again. There, function pass. All right. And this is if the new item is something. If you click the hotbar slot, it will not pick the item. It will remove the copy from the hotbar. So else here, else if the new item is nothing, we'll simply remove the item. But here we'll set the slot to enable. We need to do the set enable color with true. At the end, we'll simply set the item to be equal to the new item. And at the top, let's go back to the item. When we have a new item, we set all the signals and everything. When we set the item, we need to check if we already have an item there. We need to disconnect all signals and remove everything. We can basically pick everything here and we'll revert everything. So let's go here and paste. So the item texture will be equal to null. There is not going to be any texture. Then for those signal here, we'll simply disconnect. So here, disconnect that. The usable will be the same, disconnect. We'll set the quantity to 0. And here we don't need to set the color. We can remove that one. And instead of setting the cooldown, we need to remove the cooldown if there is. Cooldown node.q3. So we'll remove it. All right, so that should be it for the set item. Let's go down and let's look at our other function. So let's do the quantity change. This one is pretty easy. We'll simply set our label dot quantity to be equal to the quantity that we're getting from the signal, because this signal will come from the item quantity like this quantity. So on start cooldown, I'll get the function set cooldown. Yeah, and this one will send the usable component. So here, usable. I'll move my function on at the bottom. So let's cut them and put them below. I like to have my underscore function lower, but that's just a code preference. And on can use chain. So this one will receive a value, which is the boolean if we can use or not. So we'll set enabled color to value. So now we'll check the set enabled color. This one will change the modulate color. So if we go in the scene here, so if I select the hotbar slot, we can go down in the inspector here up to the visibility, and there's the modulate here, and we can change the color of the hotbar slot. So back in the code here, I'll simply set modulate is equal to color, and then here we can set it to normal. So it's going to be 1. So this is normal, white color. If the value is true, else, then we'll set a color to everything at half, 0.5. So we'll see it when we try it. So in the set cooldown, we'll set the cooldown node is going to be equal to usable.get cooldown instance. That's the function we did earlier. So the usable component will give us its cooldown node with the remaining cooldown and everything. And then we need to add it. So item texture.add child and the cooldown node. So now I need to override 3 functions from the parent. So the first one is the remove item child that I just added earlier. This one is pretty simple. It's passed. And there's not going to be anything else. We simply override it so the parent doesn't execute it. Then we have the function can stack here with the new item. I'll do the underscore because I'm not going to use this variable. We override this function because we don't want to stack item from the hotbar, or else it could be a duplication glitch, unless that's a feature you want. Can stack, return, false. You can never stack an item here. And then function, it's going to be the put item. This one, we won't override it completely. Here we'll get the new item. What we want to do is when you put the item in the hotbar, it shouldn't take it completely and you're left with your empty hand. When you put an item there, we'll call the parent put item, new item, and then we'll simply return the new item, the item we had. Because if we return the put item from the parent, it will return nothing. Or if we have another item in our hand, it will swap them. But with this, it will always return you the item that you clicked on the slot. All right, let's save that. Oh, and we have to set the item texture here from the scene. So if you click your hotbar slot, you should have your item texture here and assign it. So assign item texture. All right, and I have some bugs in my code here. I forgot that here, the item texture needs to be dot texture. I'll copy this for this one too. And I need to make sure that this is the item, set everything in here to the item. So new item here is not correct. I have to change that. And here in new item, everything should be new item. So if I copy this to this component there and this one, that's a problem with the copy paste. So now everything should be good. The only thing left is the quantity scenes. By default, it has already a number, quantity, tscn. By default, it has 4. So instead, what we'll do is we will hide it. So visibility, hidden, and save. So then when we create an instance of the quantity and set it in the hotbar slot, it will not be shown. That should be good. So let's start. If we go in the chest, we have our potion. If we pick them and put them down. So yeah, I have my potion 4. If I put it in my inventory, it becomes usable. So if I swap them, it works. I can have multiple if I want to. I can swap them. I can remove them also. So if I click on it, it will remove it. And then if I press the key, it doesn't work. But that is because I didn't set them in my input mapping. So let's do this. If we go in the project settings, input map, and I go at the bottom, I have my hotbar, but I didn't set the key. So add key 1. All right, close. Let's go back. Open the chest, put some item at the bottom, and 2 works. 1, and if I press once more, it used it, and they're gone. I can put other things, but I can't use them. Oh, and here on input, I forgot to add a end item, just if there is an item, so it doesn't crash. We were getting some error here. So all the warning here, we have a lot of that is the return value is never used, or signals that are declared but never emitted. I'm gonna add a exception in the projects debug so we don't see those, but you have to keep in mind that there can be some of those. So I'm gonna go in project settings, general, debug GD script here, and if we go down a little bit, we should see return value discarded and unused signal. I'm gonna uncheck those two. And at the bottom, we had an error for can't emit non-existing signal heal player. It's because I didn't do the signal manager doesn't have this function. I'm just gonna add it here in the signal manager, usable. Well, that would be something for the player that he would listen to. So I'll have signal heal player and the quantity, I think, health points. So if we just run the game again, now we only have 3 warning. There's a conversion float to int, so you could simply surround that with a int, should remove this one, and then we have value is never used. So here, when you click on it, you can see it, and if we underscore in front, that means that you know that it's discarded and it's not used. And there's another one in the onQuantity slider, so let's underscore this one, save that. So if we start the game, now there's nothing in the debugger, so that's more calm. There's no more chaos. Or the warning are simply hidden, but yeah, that works too. So I think now we could add the usable on the equipment, so the helmet and the unique items. And we could also create the item upgrade. I'm also going to create another type. If we go in the items, we have the equipment type, but I'd like to have another base type. And then if it is an equipment, it could have its equipment type. We have the ID here, which is a string. We have the item name, which is a string too. We'll add a type, which is going to be we'll create a new enum in the game enums, and it's going to be the type. So this item type. We'll set this type in the data folder, and when we initialize our item, we'll have to get it. So our type here, we can move it up and we'll change it a bit. First, I'll add here the type is going to be equal to game enums dot item type. Let's create it right now since we're here. So copy this, go in game enums. We have the equipment type. Let's add enum item type. We have the material consumable of equipment. So let's start with those. Go back in item, and then we'll get the data and type. Let's add the type in the data file. So if we go in our data folder, open in the file manager, then we'll open our items. And here we can simply say gold coin. Well, this could be a type currency. Let's add the currency. So I can bring this in the game. Go back in my game enums and let's add currency. Give this back. Crystal, that's going to be a material. We can copy this. The wood is a material, stone brick. Now the small healing potion is going to be a consumable. Big healing potion, consumable. The rarity upgrade kit that we'll do after is going to be a consumable too. And here they're all equipment, but those already have a type. So we'll need to change this type. This will be equipment type. And then we'll set the type to equipment. And then we can set those for each other. So I'll simply do that and I'll come back. All right, so I changed my type to equipment on each of them, and I set the equipment type to what they were. All right, so let's go back in the game. And now the line, if we have the type, is instead going to be if the type, because we will have the type, is equal to game enum item type dot equipment. So if it is a equipment, then we'll set the equipment type. So then equipment type will be equal to the game enum that, but this here, instead of being type, will be equipment type. That's a bit longer. We only set the equipment type if it is an equipment. Now, if we come in item info, I'm going to change a bit how I name them. So here, the type name, I'm going to move that. I'm going to send this in the item manager, cut those, go in my item manager. I'll go in my item manager. I'm just going to put that here. Type names. It's not going to be type name anymore. It's going to be equipment. and then I'll have another one, and then I'll have another one for the normal type. Here, type names. Let's remove some of those. And here, all the equipment type name are okay, but the none is not really useful. There shouldn't be any equipment that are none now, so we can remove it. So the type names, I'm gonna have item type dot consumable. Let's go to the next one. All right. Now I didn't put the equipment here in the type name because they're gonna use their equipment name. So at the bottom here, I'll have a new function, which is gonna be get type name, and then I'll get the item. So if the item type dot equipment, so if it is equipment, then I'll return the equipment name with the item dot equipment type. Then else I can duplicate this one. Else this is going to be item, and this is going to be type names, and it's going to be simply item.type. So that's it. Get type name, save that. Then we can go back in our item info. Now that we remove the type names here, this will get the item manager get type name. Here, all of this item manager dot get type name slot dot item, and there, that should be good. All right, so this is getting a bit longer than expected. So now let's do the upgrade kit. Let's go in the usable folder and let's create a new script. It's going to be item upgrade. So this script will have a class name, item upgrade, and it will extend the item usable. Then it will have the function init. This one is pretty much the same as the healing item. So we'll get the data parent item, then we'll send the same data to the parent. So dot, we'll have to create some new signals. So signal manager dot connect to has upgradable item. We'll connect it on self, and we'll have on has upgradable item. It's going to take in a value, which is going to be a boolean. And then we'll have the unused text. Unused text is going to be upgrade an item to magic or rare. Then we'll have the condition, have an item that is normal or magic in your inventory. Then we'll have the get used text function, which is going to return on use text. Now that I'm thinking about that, this could be what the parent class does. And if you have to modify the use text, you could override it here. The item upgrade wouldn't need this function. But yeah, for now, I'll leave it there. If we receive the signal on item upgrade, we'll set the can use, going to be equal to the value, and we'll emit the signal, can use changed, and we'll do get can use. All right. And the last thing is going to be the execute. So when we use it, function execute, and we'll simply send the signal, signal manager, emit signal, and we'll get a new signal upgrade item and save that. So let's create those signals. Copy that, go into signal manager. We'll do that in inventory. Signal upgrade item, then it's not going to take anything. And we'll have the other has upgradable item, and this is going to be in the inventory too. Signal has upgradable item, and this will take a boolean value. All right, so now we'll have to update the player inventory to add a bunch of signals and check to know if we have the requirement to upgrade an item. So inventory player. So now we have ready, and let's create get upgradable items. So function get upgradable. Now I'm going to check only in the inventory right and left. I'm not going to check the equipment, but you could include it there. So we'll be able to upgrade only the item in those two inventory. If you have them equipped, then you will need to remove them before. So get upgradable item var valid items is equal to an array. Then we'll loop through the inventory to know if we have valid items. So for I in inventory, so we'll get a array here, and we'll set the inventory left and inventory right. So for s in I dot slot, here we'll check if the slot dot item and item type is equipment, game enum dot item type dot equipment. So if it is equal to equipment, and the item dot rarity is lower than game enums dot rarity dot rare. So if all of this is correct, then valid item happened s dot item. Then at the end, I'll return the valid items. We'll also need a function to know when the content has changed. So function content changed. When we put something in our inventory, we need to check if it is a valid item. Var valid items. We'll get the upgradable item. Then we'll simply emit the signal. Emit signal has upgradable item. And then the value we'll send here is going to be valid items dot size is greater than 0. If we have something, then yes, we have a upgradable item. Then let's make some place and add the next one. Now I need to connect a few signals. So if I go back at the ready function, I'm going to connect signal manager. I'm going to connect the function upgrade item. So when we use an upgrade kit, we'll check here and we'll set it on self and we'll do the on upgrade item. And then we'll connect other signal too. So in the inventory, we'll add new signal later. So inventory life.connect content changed. We'll set it on self on content changed. Then we'll duplicate this line to set it to the right inventory. So now the on content change, let's set that and the on upgrade item too. Function on content change. Let's do the on upgrade item function on upgrade item. The on content change is going to be this. We'll just simply call the content changed. Then the on upgrade item. This will get all the valid items. So var valid items is equal to get upgradable items. Then we'll shuffle this valid items dot shuffle. And then we'll call the item manager and we'll split the rarity generation function so we can send a item that is already generated and apply a new rarity to it. Yeah, we'll go later to change the function, but we'll have the generate rarity. This one is not going to be random anymore. So here we'll send the valid item, valid items 0, so the first one. Then we'll send the valid items 0 and level. It's going to generate the rarity, the next rarity with the same level. Then here we'll send which rarity we want to have. So we'll have the item 0 rarity, and then we can simply add 1 to that. Since it's a enum, now it's telling us that we have too many arguments, but we'll modify that. So yeah, I only need to add content change here, and that's it. Because when you upgrade your item, if you only have one item in your inventory, and it is magic, then you'll upgrade it, and it will become rare, and then it's not going to be valid again. You can't upgrade your rare item. So let's go here in the generate rarity, can control click. We'll split where we set the rarity and when we roll them, when we apply the affixes. So let's go a bit higher here in the RNG generate rarity. When I check if the equipment type is not none, instead of doing this, I can simply check if the item type of the item is equipment type. That's just a little change. So if the equipment type is an equipment, then it is a valid item to be generated, to have rarity. Then here I'll split this function into a generate random rarity. So here generate random rarity. Then function, I'll create that, generate random rarity. So we'll pick everything that is random in generate rarity and put it in the random one. And we'll simply generate the rarity itself. Then we'll send it to generate rarity, which will simply roll the stats and everything. So if we take a look at that, so the first thing is going to be this item component base stat scale. We'll set it in the random one. So I'm just going to copy this whole block here, copy it, paste it there, and let's see. Number of affixes, we don't need that. We need the RNG. Then if we roll a unique item, what we'll do is simply the rarity is unique. Then the rarity is rare, and then the rarity is magic. Else, well, we don't set anything. And then here we can simply return, generate rarity. We'll send in the item level, and the rarity. Here, instead of setting it to the item rarity, I'm going to set a rarity variable, and it's going to be by default normal rarity normal. And instead of setting the item, I'll set my rarity variable, and I'll send that to my new generate rarity, which will take the rarity. This will not return the rarity. The rarity of the item will be set in this function, and then we'll return the item. Return item. All right. So now we can fix the generate rarity. So when we come in here, we'll set the item.rarity is equal to rarity. And we won't get the random rarity. Then the number of affixes will be 0. We don't need the RNG anymore. So here, instead of checking for the RNG, we'll check for the rarity itself. So if rarity is equal to enums.rarity.unique. If it is unique, then you should roll unique. But the thing is, the item has unique data. This shouldn't be needed because normally here in the random rarity, it will check if it has the unique data. But if you try to generate a rarity and you pass in the unique rarity, but your item doesn't have unique data, it might crash. You just have to make sure that if you remove this, that when you ask for a unique item yourself, then it has the data. So if it is unique, we'll set it to unique, just because if here the rarity was normal, then we set it because it won't be set anywhere else. So then we roll the unique stats and we return the item like before. Else, if the rarity is rare, then we'll do this. If the rarity is magic, then we'll do the magic generation. Else, return item. And the rest is the same. Yeah, and here we can remove the percentage because that's only for the roll of the randomness. Now, while we're here, we could do the usable equipment at the bottom. We'll create a new function, set usable. So here, function set usable, we'll get the item and the data of this item. And then we'll do item components. We'll do the usable, and then it's going to be equal to. So here we'll simply call the function just above, get usable, and we'll pass in the data.usable with the item. And then item.addChild, and we'll add this component itself. So we can simply copy it, component usable, and I'll do the dot. Now we need to add this as a child because it needs to access the process function and stuff like that, and it's only available in the tree. Just above, when we roll unique, we'll add a new line, and we'll check if item.unique data has the usable property, then we'll set it. So we'll call set usable, and here we'll send the item with the item.unique data. Because in our unique data, we have the tag usable, then here it would be obtained here. So our unique data should have the usable. So now we can come back in our player's inventory. Now that we have the generate rarity, this should work. Now let's see if I forgot something. I probably did. So let's start the game. And yes, since I changed the generate rarity, the chest is not working anymore. So I'll change this to generate random rarity. Now the chest will work. So if I start, so I have my potions, everything. If I get the helmet should be usable. Yeah, unuse, heal 5 point. All right, the cooldown is going down. If I take it and put it in the slot, oh, I think I forgot something. Now if I try to put it there, I can't do anything while the cooldown is on. That's because the cooldown is not letting the clicks go through. Let's fix that. Cooldown TSCN, cooldown. Let's go down a bit up to the mouse, and we'll set it to ignore, and that should fix this. Let's go back. So if I pick up my helmet and I use it and put it in my hotbar, then the timer is going down, still going down. Oh, now I have something else. If I use it and put it back in my helmet while it's on cooldown, then it's not available, but I still can use it. So it's only a visual problem. All right, so to fix this little problem, it's simply here earlier, I took this and not is in cooldown to put it in the get can use, but there was a reason why it was here in the use. So if can get used and not is in cooldown, then you can use it. So when the item asks if it can use it, it's only going to check the conditions. And when you try to use it, it's going to check if it is in cooldown. So it's going to appear correctly in the hotbar. All right. Now let's see about the upgrade kit and test this. So I'll go in the normal chest and add the upgrade kit. And yeah, I need to go in my item manager and add the upgrade kit here. I have healing. I'll duplicate that for upgrade. Save this. So if I go in my dungeon here, I can click this chest, and here I'll set a few upgrade kit. Here I'll increase the size too. And now that I think about it, I need to set the signal when the item in the inventory change, the content change that we did earlier. So if we go in the inventory, so here we'll add a signal content changed. So already when I add child, I'm going to connect to a signal on the slot itself, s.connect item changed. So I'll have to add this signal to the slot just after that on self, and on item change. Let's create this function on item changed, but then I will also call the content changed when I add the item. If the item is null, that means that it has been put in the inventory. So then I'll emit the signal, content changed there. And the on item change will simply do the same. We'll emit the signal, content change. All right, let's go to the inventory slot and add the item change signal. Inventory slot at the top here. Let's add signal item change. We'll send nothing. Now let's go down to the put item. When we return the new item here, we'll emit signal item change. Then we can copy this function because we'll need it again when you have the new item, and we set the new item here. We'll send the signal, save this. So that should be good. That will allow us to upgrade items. So let's try the game. So now that we're in game, let's see. We have the helmet here that we can use. We can put it in our hotbar if we want to. Can use it, and the cooldown works. Then if I go in my chest here, I have the rarity upgrade kit. I can put it in my hotbar if I want to, and put it in my inventory. And since I don't have anything to upgrade, it's not available. As soon as I put something in my inventory that is upgradable, so this magic orb is normal, so I could use 2 rarity upgrade kit now. So if I use it, the magic orb is now magic. If I use it again, it's now rare. And my last one that I've placed in my hotbar is not usable because there's nothing to upgrade. If I take my helmet and put it in my inventory, now I can use it. So if I press 2, it's going to use it. My helmet is now magic, and I can use it. And it's the same for the potion. If I leave them in the chest, they're not usable. If I put them in my inventory, they are. So I can use those. Use my helmet, use my potion. And then let's try to get a unique magic orb to see if it's usable. So I simply made the chance to get the unique at 100%. So crystal orb of rarity. And it's unused 5 healing point. Now if I put it in the hotbar and equip it, I can use it. And I can equip my helmet too and put it in the hotbar, so I can use both. All right, so that's pretty much it for this. I'm just going to change the inventory panel here. So when you click the X, it closes, and when you press I, it's opening because it's a bit annoying. And there's also a glitch where when you start the game, the inventory panel is always in the center, and that's with all draggable control. So I'll fix this. So I'll go in draggable control GD. So here, when we set the scale, this is where we have the problem. I think it's mostly because I have a camera and the draggable control is placed before the camera is available. So what we'll do here is simply yield, get tray. We'll do the idle frame. So this will simply wait 1 frame before setting the position of the draggable control. So everything is in place. And then if we go in the player inventory TSCN, we have the little X here. We can go in node, and we already have the unpressed close, but it's not connected correctly. So we'll remove it and reconnect, connect. So unclosed press, this will simply hide and save this. And then we'll go in project settings, input map, and we'll add something for the inventory. So let's do inventory, add. We'll add the action key. I'll do I and close. Then we can go in the UI. We can go in the main scene. We have the UI container here, inspector. So we already have the settings here. So what we'll do, we'll add another one, duplicate. This will be the player inventory as a control. Then we'll add a function, input function, input if the event that is action pressed, and inventory. So if we press the inventory key, then player inventory dot visible is equal to not the same. So that will toggle your inventory. Save this. Now we need to set it. So if I click the UI container, I can click the assign and select the inventory player here. So if we start, now the inventory panel starts on the side. And if I press I, it closes it. If I press X, it closes it. And now I can pick up my stuff and put it in the hotbar. And then if I close my inventory or with I and I press 1, it uses my helmet. And yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that's everything. It was a lot longer than I thought. I was thinking the usable item shouldn't be too complicated, but when I started to work on it, the cooldown was not too bad. But the thing is, the interaction with the hotbar and everything, you need to queue free your item correctly. When there's nothing in the stack, you need to remove it. There's a lot of stuff. So that's pretty much it. I think the next tutorial will probably be about crafting. So maybe we'll be able to use those material and probably will be able to craft some rarity upgrade kit or something like this. Yeah, let me know if you're interested in anything else, if you want me to add more, or you have other ideas, or if you have question about how to modify the code, if you want to make it work with your game. Yeah, and if I find any bug, I'll fix them in the next tutorial. Alright, and as always, the code will be on GitHub if you want to just pick it up, and pretty much it. So, thanks for watching, and a special thanks to my Patreon, especially Lithaline. Thanks a lot. So, I'll see you guys next time, I guess. Bye bye. Alright, and as a bonus, for those that watch until the end, this is the game I'm working on, Balls Invaders. And in my game, I have the usable items, and I have a building system. So the deed, I have a small house and a portal, and I can right-click to use them, and I enter in a building mode, where I can place my buildings on my island. Yeah, I can build a small house. I have some items that have inventory size on them, so when I place this small bag in my inventory, I have more inventory slot available. And I have a small clock. This is also a usable item, but this is mostly when I go in the world. Yeah, I have time, and if I use the small clock, I'll get more time. So that's for my game. So yeah, you can create different usable item for your needs. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.